Hello and welcome to the Genuine Learning Blog. My name is Melissa Galasso, and while I wasn't expecting to do a blog this week, I have the perfect opportunity to. I was supposed to be in Iceland with my family enjoying spring break, but alas, the travel ban kind of stopped that one, and so I had the opportunity to spend this week really doing a lot of rejiggering of my calendar and also trying to figure out what we're going to do going forward. This is the new normal. This is the disruption we've been talking about for some time here, and we're just going to talk a little bit today about how the uniform guidance is addressing this. And so the Office of Management and Budget has issued a release today, and we're going to talk about OMB M-20-11. And this is administrative relief when directly impacted by COVID-19. So super important that we pay close attention to when directly impacted. This is not a blanket statement. So I'm just going to talk about this as to what these rules are related to these changes. So this is administrative relief for recipients and applicants of federal financial assistance directly impacted by the novel coronavirus or COVID-19. This was issued on March 9th, and as you're probably aware, there's this lovely virus that is spreading and has caused a lot of worry in the United States. As a response to that, the federal government has set aside funds specifically to handle this crisis. And OMB is providing short-term administrative, financial management, and audit requirement relief due to this. And it is permitted under the Uniform Guidance Section 200.102, which is exceptions. And in the Code of Federal Regulations, in the Uniform Guidance, there is a way for the Office of Management and Budget to make these types of class of transactions and class of awards to have these types of exceptions. However, there's a lot of misunderstanding about this. The GAQC actually had to put out an alert. It is only allowing federal agencies to grant class exceptions where their purpose of the federal award is to carry out research and services necessary to carry out the emergency response related to COVID-19. This is not a blanket response. This is not something that says, okay, we don't have to do our single audit this year. That is not what we're saying. It is only for certain recipients, so not a blanket waiver, and it's typically the $9 billion that the House issued in emergency appropriation for coronavirus preparation and response. So if you do not have clients who are working on this, then this won't apply to you. They are expected, they're working on some type of guidance to come out at the agency level for provisions, and typically this is going to come primarily through DHHS because that's who received the money from the House and the Senate when the bill was passed. They are time limited. These are not perpetual. This is a very specific circumstance. It's a very unusual world that we are living in. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, where all the bars and restaurants are closed. School is out. Thankfully, this is our spring break, so school was supposed to be out. And next week, we're going to see what online learning looks like in our family. So it's a whole other period of time. But these are time limited. And again, only related to the response to COVID-19. I think if I say that at least a dozen times, we'll make sure that people don't hear this and say, oh, this is a blanket response. So what are some of the relief that they're giving? Flexibility with SAM registrations and recertification. So they have some relaxation here. If you have it, it's active, then obviously you have some additional time. However, you do have to look at the review of risk, and that continues to apply when you're awarding federal funds. A waiver for notices of funding opportunities publication. Obviously, typically we have a long period of time. You can now publish emergency notice of funding opportunities for less than 30 days without separately justifying shortening the time frame. So this is going to allow it. However, you do have to track anything that was less than 30 days. Pre-award cost, obviously, if you are working in this area, we are taking, it takes time to issue these. So awarding agencies can allow necessary pre-award cost from January 20th through the public health period and prior to the effective date of the award. So it takes some time for the award to actually get to you from January 20th until the end of this period, and prior to whenever you get this actual award in your hand, those can be considered allowable cost. No cost extensions. If you had a award that's out there, you can extend an award that's active and scheduled to expire up to December 31st, 2020, automatically, no cost for 12 months. So this will allow us some time for assessments, resumption of our normal projects and activities. It is project specific, and financial and performance reports will be due 90 days following the end of the extension. So if it was going to expire, you get the extra time. You have your reporting 90 days after the extension date, but you do actually still have to do all the filing. Abbreviated non-competitive continuation requests. So if you have a non-competitive continuation request scheduled to come in between April 1st and December 31st, then the awarding agencies can accept a brief statement from the grantee to verify that they're in a position to resume or restore their activities and accept a planned continuation award. And they're going to post specific instructions on their individual websites. You have to wait for the agencies to sort of give us instructions here. In terms of salary and other project activities, awarding agencies can allow you to continue to charge to current active projects and allow other costs to going into these projects to resume activities, again, when supporting this particular disease or this particular virus. Waivers for prior approval. Awarding agencies can waive prior approval requirements as necessary to speed things up so that we're not waiting and we're working as hard as we can to, obviously, to the extent possible, provide the information that we need if they're creating tests or whatever they're doing with this money. That's obviously super important. It does have to be consistent with cost policy guidelines, except with anything else that's already exempt here. Exemption for procurement requirements, geographic preferences, and contracting small and minority businesses, women's businesses, and labor surplus can be waived during this time. So a lot of times it's harder to find a woman-owned business or a small business to during these periods where you really need it. Those can be waived during this extension period. Exemption of financial and other reporting. This is the one that people keep coming back to and saying, oh, everyone has a blanket additional time. That's not the case. Awarding agencies can allow recipients to delay submission of financial and other reports up to 3 months beyond the normal due date. However, they do have to be obviously submitted. And if you allow that, they can continue to receive funding during that period of time. But again, you have to be related to the actual virus. And the extension of the single audit submission, right? So agencies now can allow the report of the single audit up to 12 months beyond the normal due date. And then, so whatever your normal due date is plus 12 months, and you would still qualify to be a low-risk auditee. Typically, if you file late, you can't qualify to be a low-risk auditee. This would not deem to be late because they get an automatic extension here. So typically the deadline for June 30, 2019 would be March 31st of 2020. So if we are trying to get these done and we want people to be actively working on finding a cure or providing tests or whatever it is that they're doing with this money, we want them to be able to work on that and not worry so much about reporting, single audits, et cetera. So they get some additional time to file with the FAQ. We recognize that there are a lot of other people who are impacted by this. We have firms who are working from home. We have clients who can't go to their offices right now. You can't in several states meet in groups larger than 50. You have to be 6 feet away from one another, right? These are very unusual and trying times. So we know others are being adversely affected. However, there's no solution right now, right? So we know there are practice challenges out there that can still result in late filing. If you can't go out to see your client, if you can't physically review things, if they don't have access to it because they're not in the cloud, right? If you're dealing with governments in particular, they're not entirely cloud-based yet. So we're starting to see that more and more. Firms, for the most part, have gone to the cloud, but again, not all. And so we do know this is an issue. So we are waiting for OMB to issue formal guidance that applies to the broader population, right? So to people who are struggling because of all these other issues. It's not specifically related to receiving funds related to COVID-19, but are impacted by COVID-19. Now, remember, you can always ask for a case-by-case extension or exception or exemption, and you have to reach out to the right people at the agency if that applies to you, but there is no blanket opening right now. That's something coming down the pike. For those of you who deal with universities, you're probably aware that a number of universities have sent their students home. And so there were questions about how this impacts student financial aid, distance learning, whether they're in an accredited program, if they're going to graduate, right? This is an unusual time. So the Department of Ed has issued 2 big items here. So there's the guidance for interruptions, as well as they have an entire coronavirus section to read on their website. So if you deal with colleges and universities, highly recommend that you take a look at at this, I actually sent several of my universities this actual guidance to make sure that they're aware of some of the rules that have changed for student financial assistance. The GAQC has been in touch. Obviously, they put out a lot of information about this, and they are aware that this is problematic. It is unlikely that the 2020 compliance supplement will be delayed. So as a result, none of this will be incorporated into the 2020 compliance supplement. So that will also be somewhat difficult in practice. So during these times, just know that everyone is looking out. AICPA is involved. All of the departments are involved, and we're just going to have to ride this one out. This is something that's very unusual. This is not business as usual by any stretch of the imagination. So I feel for you if you're impacted by this. I feel for your clients if they're impacted. I feel for everyone right now. It's been really hard. I feel for my kid who is tired of being home with me at this point. I'm tired of having a kid home while I'm working, right? So I'm tired, you're tired, we're all tired, and I'm full, and we just got into this. So I am with you on this. I wish you all stay healthy, stay active, stay optimistic, be positive, and we will ride this out, and we will overcome. It's just going to take us a little bit of time to get there. So I send all my best wishes to everyone out there as part of this, and I will continue to update you guys with information as it comes out there, and we will get through this. So thank you for joining me today on the Genuine Learning blog, and I hope to see you on a future blog. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.